Hi there, Malcolm here with my 412th Booktube video, and today I'll be bringing you a wrap-up for my readings in April. There's up the numbers, which you all know by now that I compare the month I just read to the same month of the previous year, April 2026 versus April 2025. I can tell you that I managed to complete 9 books during April, as opposed to 20 from last year. That's 11 less, and that is quite a big jump. But you need to remember that last year I read all 18 of the Star Wars Jedi Apprentice books, which are very skinny. Meaning that my total page count is 2,274 compared to 3,382 from last year. So I'm only behind by 1,108, despite being 11 books down. I also managed 24.38 hours on Audible compared to 14.9 hours from last year, meaning I'm up by 9.48 hours. Great stuff. So my running totals from January to the end of April for both years is 53 total books for both. I'm even Stevens, which is really cool. But page count for this year, 12,630 versus last year's 10,994. So I'm 1,636 pages up, which is a bit of a drop because I was over 3,000 pages at the end of March. I think I've had a combination of burnout and being ill, which has not helped my reading at all. And Audible, I'm at a total of 89.97 hours compared to 85.03 hours. So I am up by 4.94 hours. So looking good there. Of the 9 books, 5 are novels, 3 were graphic novels, and 1 was a non-fiction. 3 of the books I read were standalone, and 6 were part of a series. 1 was a reread, 2 were read aloud, 1 I listened to on Audible, 1 was a tome of over 500 pages, and we own all 9 titles, which is great. So with the stats out of the way, we'll have a quick look through the 9 books. I have done an individual review for each and every single one of those, which I'll leave in the description box down below. I'll just basically wave the book, say what it was, end result, and then we'll move on. I'm not going to waste time retreading old ground. The 9 books are still a lot, so let's get cracking. So first up, I finished To Be Taught If Fortunate by Becky Chambers to my wife. This is a reread for her, that she was desperate for me to read some Becky Chambers, and I'm always up for increasing my author base. It was alright, worth reading. And after that, I then read Marvel Secret Wars. This was a bloody mess and was boring, nonsensical. I had no idea what was going on for half the time, and didn't really care for it when I did. And after that, I then read, or rather finished listening to He Who Fights With Monsters by Shirtaloon. Listened to this on Audible, really enjoyed it, worth buying. And after that, I then read For We Are Many by Dennis E. Taylor. This is book 2 of the Bobbyverse, and was April's book of the month, and unfortunately the only book that I'd planned to read in the whole of April. So the 4 books I didn't get to read are now shoved into May, along with the other 5 books I already intended to read in May as well. So I've got a lot of reading to try and do in May to catch up. However, this was absolutely fantastic. Great continuation of the series. Booktastic. And after that, I then read Supergirl, Woman of Tomorrow by Tom King. The movie coming out in July is based off this story. Looking forward to seeing that, and so I thought I'd read this. It was a bit of a disappointment. Worth reading as something to do before the film comes out, but really it didn't deliver. I didn't get on with Tom King's writing, and the artwork really didn't do it for me either. And after that, I then read Project Hail Mary by Andy Weir, or rather I finished reading this to my wife. We went and saw the amazing film, and so she asked me to read this to her. It was a reread for me. I would say it's a book that is improved by the film that it accompanies. I gave it Booktastic the first time I reviewed it. I'm giving it a Booktastic again, but I say it's a far more enjoyable book having seen the film. On its own, it is lacking something. The film itself is one of those perfect films. Highly recommend that. And after that, I then read Invincible Volume 5 by Robert Kirkman. The first volume of this style that has one complete arc all the way through. And it did come with some answers, but others are still hanging in there. Really engaged with this. Booktastic. And then I finally finished reading 100 Best Video Games That Never Existed by Nate Crowley, a hilarious non-fiction style book featuring a bunch of ridiculous video games that don't exist. Well worth a read. Booktastic. And then finally, I then read Shadow of a Dark Queen by Raymond E. Feist, book 1 of the Serpent War saga from the Rift War series. I think it's book 9 in the series so far. A decent fantasy story. Booktastic. And this was the 5th book of March's reading, which I finished at the end of April. So I've got a long way to catch up. So there we go. I hope you enjoyed that. Any thoughts towards any of the books I've just waved at you, then comment down below, please. But as usual, if nothing nice to say, then please keep it to yourself. Thank you. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and other YouTube things if you want. And until next time, see you later.